Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Anastasia Paniagua, and I am a member of the Latino, Latina, Latinx Issues Conference Organizing Committee. And I hope that you are enjoying the panels and the lunch that you've had thus far. Thank you. So to kick us off, it is my honor to invite President Rodney Rogers to the stage.
Good, what are we? Afternoon, yes it is. Good afternoon. And thank you very much for allowing me to share a few words here at the 30th. So we are at the 30th Latino AX Issues Conference here at Bowling Green State University. Certainly a pleasure to be here on a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It's a little cold, I've heard that already, but the sun is shining, and to be in a room full of individuals that have come together. I want to make sure we start by thanking the School of Cultural and Critical Studies, who's in our College of Arts and Science, for serving as the organizational hub for the planning today. But I know there are many, many, many students, faculty, and staff across the institution. I want to thank each of them for their work in supporting this event. It's organized collaboratively, as you know, from representatives from the Latino Student Union, the Latin American and Latino Studies Cluster in the Department of Ethnic Studies, as well as the Division of Inclusion and Belonging and the Center for Student Connections and Opportunities. This conference was first held at Bowling Green in April 21-22 of 1995. And so for the past 30 years, this conference has been engaging our students, faculty, staff, and the public, community members, regional and nationally, by welcoming thought leaders to our campus to engage in the important dialogue that we must engage in, especially in today's times. That is part of being a public higher education institution. Bowling Green, our mantra, public university for the public good, and so it is absolutely our responsibility to create opportunities where we have an opportunity to learn from each other, providing space to make sure we have meaningful and authentic dialogue, learning about the world around us, learning about our communities, learning about our history, learning about what we need to do together to continue to evolve our society and our country, but the world. I really am very grateful that we have opportunities like this at Bowling Green, and in this case, for the past 30 years, that has occurred and will continue to occur, because opportunities like this are open to all. They are open to anyone who wants to engage, to learn more about, in this case, the Latino AX issues within the world and our country, certainly. I want to especially thank and recognize our keynote speaker that's with us today, Dr. Frederick Luis Aldama. Perfect. Dr. Aldama, thank you so much. Mexican-born but American-raised, award-winning author, editor, educator. Currently is teaching humanities at the University of Texas at Austin, editor-in-chief of the Latinx Pop magazine, and has published over 50 books, produces, co-created documentaries, animated stories. We are really honored to have you here at Bowling Green. And we were speaking briefly prior to UT Austin. You were at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, but you hadn't had a chance to come up to our campus. And that's on us. We should have invited you many times to be here, but we wanted you to move away So we had a reason for you to come back, okay? And we are absolutely honored to have you here. And thank you. Thank you for taking time out of, I'm sure, a very busy schedule to come back to Ohio and be here at Bowling Green. I also want to make sure that we thank and recognize our undergraduate and graduate students who are presenting their research and creative activities during this conference. Let's give them a round of applause, would we, if we could? So as I mentioned, I want to make sure that I thank each of you for being here and engaging in this community at Bowling Green. We are absolutely honored to host this conference, and I'll look forward to year number 31 next year. We will continue to have opportunities like this that are open to all to come together to talk about important issues to our nation and to the world. And this is one of those conferences. Again, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to say a few words. Welcome.
Hello again. One of the great pleasures of organizing this event is working with the Latino, Latina, Latinx Issues Conference Organizing Committee, a group of students, faculty, and staff working throughout the academic year. We truly collaborate on all major decisions that go into this event, from choosing our keynote speaker to brainstorming ways to make the conference more accessible to a wide array of students. I'd like to ask the members of the Latino, Latina, Latinx Issues Conference Organizing Committee to please rise so that we can thank them for their work. And let's hold applause till the end, please. Professor Luis Moreno, Anna Brown, Lucia Virginia Myers, Davis Rittenauer, Joseph Enrique de la Torre, Daphne Bonilla, Eileen Bosch, Benito Vasquez, and Professor Amy Robinson. In addition, we acknowledge the logistical support of the staff of the School of Cultural and Critical Studies, Amy Davidson and Becca Patterson. Thank you. And we acknowledge the labor of all the individuals who work behind the scenes to make an event in this space possible: event planning, catering, and custodial services. We also want to thank our community partners for attending and supporting this event. We value the relationships BGSU has with community organizations that serve Latino, Latina, Latinx communities in our region. I want to recognize the organizations that are represented here today: La Conexión, La Prensa, and Toledo Public Schools. The first Latino Issues Conference was held in 1995 with the mission to, quote, explore, identify, and research those issues impacting and pertaining to the needs of the Hispanic and/or Latino community, end quote. Since 2009, the Latin American and Latino Latina Studies Cluster has organized student research conferences under the name Estrella Research Conference. In 2016, the Estrella Research Conference and the Latino Latina Latinx Issues Conference combined to continue the conference as it is today. Our organizational hub is now based in the School of Cultural and Critical Studies. We hope to continue supporting student research and recognizing the accomplishments of our Latino, Latina, Latinx communities while increasing the visibility of Latina, Latino, Latinx culture, politics, and interventions in BGSU and our region for many years to come. There are 5 organizations or offices on our campus that help organize the conference, including the Department of Ethnic Studies, the School of Cultural and Critical Studies, the Latin American and Latino Latina Studies Cluster, the Latino Student Union, and the Division of Inclusion and Belonging. I invite the representatives of these organizations to come to the stage: Professor Luis Moreno, Daphne Bonilla, Anna Brown, and Professor Amy Robinson.
Okay. Sorry about that. I want to make sure what slide we're on. Everybody enjoying the time here, the meal? Everything good? Okay. I am representing the Department of Ethnic Studies. We're part of the School of Culture Critical Studies. We developed as a program and center in 1970 due to the fact of students who struggled to actually demand a center for ethnic studies or for Black students and Latino students. Before that, when we were founded in 1970, we also became an independent department in 1979. Ethnic Studies offers an interdisciplinary approach to examine the intersection of race, class, gender, and sexuality in the national and global context. The department offers a minor in Latino Studies, as well as a Ethnic Studies major, minor, and a graduate certificate. Before I leave the stage, I want to make sure when you leave today, make sure to go out there and take a picture with our brand new banner out there. Hopefully, Frederick will be out there taking pictures with you. Just want to advertise that it's brand new out there, so get people to take pictures, right?
La Unión de Estudiantes Latinos, Latino Student Union, is proud to be co-organizing the Latino, Latina, Latinx Issues Conference. Our members have proudly served on the steering committee of this conference from its first efforts in 1995. LSU, founded in 1972 with the purpose of stimulating Latino students, advocating for common interests, advocating for civil liberties, and improving the quality of life for all Latinos. The primary goal of LSU is the enhancement of student lives utilizing social, communications, political, legal, and cultural programs, activities, and relationships. LSU also places a priority on educating and informing on Latino culture and issues, networking with other student organizations, local communities, and alumni. Serving BGSU and the Bowling Green community, LSU is open to everyone who is interested in the Latino culture and issues, and anyone looking for a home away from home. Remember our motto, not Latino, not a problem.
The Division of Inclusion and Belonging is home to several offices and centers across campus, including the Center for Student Connections and Opportunity, CSCO. CSCO is dedicated to providing advocacy, support, and education, and applauds the work that LIC continues to do to get us closer to these goals. We are honored to have maintained membership on the Planning Committee from the very beginning, and we look forward to supporting LIC's efforts in the future as we build an intentional, equitable, and inclusive campus community.
The Institute for the Study of Culture and Societies Latin American and Latinx Studies Cluster is an interdisciplinary group of faculty at BGSU who work in the fields of Latin American and/or Latinx studies. The cluster works to increase the visibility of Latin American and Latinx studies on campus through programming initiatives, curriculum development, and research. They're faculty in the departments of history, world languages and cultures, ethnic studies, the library, and other departments who participate in the cluster. Thank you.
Thank you to all the units that make the conference a reality. At this time, I would like to ask LIC Organizing Committee member Lucia Virginia Myers to the stage.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Lucia Virginia Myers. Good afternoon, my name is Lucia Virginia Myers. At an event at this scale requires support from many offices, departments, and other sources. We want to thank all LIC table sponsors. Each of these groups sponsored a table at the luncheon, helped spread the word about the event, invited guests, and donated additional seats to BGSU students. Okay, thank you. We especially want to thank our here are our table sponsors. Please give them a round of applause. We especially want to thank our LIC amigas, amigo exes. These friends of the conference contributed between $500 and $999 for this event. This level of sponsorship helps us make the opportunity to attend all events for free to all BGSU students. Please give them a round of applause. Last but certainly not least, we want to thank LIC advocates who are major sponsors who contributed $1,000 or more to the conference. An event like this would not be possible without their continued support. Let's give them a round of applause to all our sponsors. I would like to now invite up the awards committee member, Davis Rutenhauer, yes.
Do you want me to start here with them? Yeah. How do I move forward?
You go down. Down. Yeah. Okay, I'm leaving.
Oh, what you have to present to. The award is given to an undergraduate student of the BGSU community who has empowered the Latinx community. This award goes to Alina Maria Edmonds. Her nominators are Libby Luna Badillo and Dana Gay. Quote, Alina's leadership and dedication have created a welcoming and empowering space for the Latinx community at BGSU. Through her roles in Sigma Lambda Gamma and the Latino Student Union, she has fostered connection, advocacy, and education. Her passion for service, from local initiatives to international efforts, demonstrates her commitment to uplifting others. Alina's voice and actions continue to inspire and strengthen our multicultural community. Alina, if you would please come onto the stage.
The award, The award is given to a graduate student of the BGSU community who has empowered the Latino AX community. This award goes to Renee Oswald Ayala. His nominator is Professor Susana Peña. Renee Ayala's leadership, creativity, and dedication were instrumental in the success of the Latino Issues Conference. He has worked hard and envisioned empowered our community, ensuring the conference thrived and evolved, especially during its 25th year anniversary. We relied on his commitment, and his impact will be felt for many years. Renee, please.
The award is given to a faculty of the BGSU community who has empowered the Latinx community. This award goes to Dr. Amilcar Chalou. His nominator is Professor Angela Nelson. Dr. Chalou has profoundly enriched the BGSU and wider community by bringing knowledge, visibility, and understanding of Latin American and Latinx histories and cultures. Through his teaching, research, and public engagement, he has created spaces for students to explore their identities and fostered a sense of belonging among faculty and students. His dedication to public history and cross-cultural dialogue continues to empower and inspire the Latinx community.
At this time, I would like to welcome to the stage Eileen Bosch to introduce our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Boa tarde. Tudo bem? How's everyone doing? Let's give another round of applause to our 3 award recipients. Thank you all for being here at the 2025 Latinx Issues Conference. I'm Eileen Bosch, the Associate Dean of University Libraries, and it's my great pleasure to introduce today's distinguished keynote speaker, Frederick Luis Aldama, also known as Professor Latinx. Born in Mexico and raised in North Central California, Dr. Aldama earned his BA from UC Berkeley and his PhD from Stanford. He holds the Jacob and Francis Sanger Musiker Chair in the Humanities at UT Austin, where he founded and directs the Latinx Pop Lab and the annual BIPOC Pop, Comics, Gaming, Animation, and Multimedia Arts Symposium. He is editor-in-chief of the Latin Pop magazine and the Texas-based publisher Flower Song Press. With over 50 books, including the Eisner Award-winning Latinx Superheroes in Mainstream Comics, his work has reshaped how we see characters and stories with different Latinx identities, intersectionalities, and backgrounds representing in popular culture. But his impact doesn't stop there. His children's books, such as The Adventures of Chupacabra Charlie and Con Papa, With Papa, introduce young readers to vibrant bilingual storytelling. His recent works, including award-winning YA graphic fiction Through Fences and Labyrinths Born, and the YA novel The Absolutely Almost True Adventures of Max Rodriguez, continue to push creative boundaries and hint, hint, mi gente. You all can find his books at the Brown Popular Culture Library. Woo! Beyond books, Dr. Aldama produces and co-creates documentaries and animated shorts. His animated short, Carlitos Chupacabra, was showcased at the 2023 Cannes Animation Festival. A member of the National Cartoonist Society, Texas Institute of Letters, and Ohio State's ODI Hall of Fame, he also serves on boards such as the Academy of American Poets. And if that's not enough, people, he has 2 major projects launching in 2025, the comics anthology From Cocinas to Lucha Libre Ringsides, and the Steampunkera Chronicles. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Frederick Luis Aldama.
Okay, so I need some tech people up here to switch these slides over when you get a chance. In the meanwhile, I'm going to plug into this mic. While I do that, let me ask you a big question. What's your favorite Latino character? Or what is the favorite Latinx story that you have seen on TV or in film lately? Anyone? Or music? Anything Latinx pop culture? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Oh my goodness, keep going. Let's go. Frida Kahlo, okay. Selena, right. Awesome. Bad Bunny, okay. We got it. Is this one yours? Yeah. Others, any more? We're getting like, this is amazing. Obviously, I'm in the right place, the right crowd. Yeah, are we good?
I believe so.
Okay, thanks. Jeff, putting you on the spot? I'm going to Main Street, Miles Morales. Oh, yes. Okay, Jack Miles. We all love Miles, right? Okay, so let's get the show on the go. First of all, thank you, BGSU, for welcoming me. I have had the best time ever, and I can tell this is a campus that really cares about students. And that's what we do this for, right? Brian, we're here for you. You're here for us. And BGSU seems like a wonderful place to be. So yeah, Latinx pop culture matters. This is my jam. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. I want to give you've already heard a little bit. I was born in Mexico City, a very strange situation. My mom, when she was 18, after having heard so many stories from her mom from Guatemala, got on a bus and went on her way to Guatemala City, got off in Mexico City, fell in love with the city, and then fell in love with my dad. Well, the thing is this was a time when there was a lot happening in Mexico City. It feels like 68. We're kind of reliving a lot of that today. But think about with Tlatelolco and the massacre that happened there. If you don't know about it, think about Kent State, think about Tiananmen Square. Think about student uprisings and the way governments, especially authoritarian governments, come in and squash them. My father, Luis, lost lots of friends. I mention this because he ended up dedicating his life to activism in Mexico. And my mom decided that was a little bit too much for her, raising the family, put us in a bus and brought us to California, where I grew up, and ended up at Berkeley, as you know, and then at Stanford. Along the way, of course, and some of you share this same origin story, unfortunately, I was told, I was 5, and I came home crying because I was told not to speak that dirty Mexican at school. And in fact, it got so bad where I was actually punished for speaking Spanish at school. The biggest irony of all is that I had to relearn Spanish in college, right? Along the way, growing up, my mom, as a result of that, put herself through Sac State, became a bilingual education teacher. These are really important. Our parents and the parents, their parents, our grandparents, there is something that we live and breathe with them in every step we make today. And I can very clearly identify those with my father, right? Even though he wasn't present much as I was growing up, and of course my mother dedicating her life to bilingual education in Northern California, where they sprayed pesticides daily. Eventually, it actually took my mother's life and caused irreparable kinds of harm in many of us in the community, including myself. There were other things in our environment, right? Temptations, and we talked about this, Amy, yesterday with your students. Temptations out there, not staying home, wanting to go out and hang out with your buddies instead of doing homework. And I think we all have these hinge moments. I go back to this is a comic book rendition of that hinge moment, when if I had gotten in this car with my buddy Miguel, it could have been very different. I wouldn't be up here today talking to you. In fact, my buddy Miguel's older brother ended up holding up a 7-Eleven and was arrested. My buddy Miguel was arrested as well for accessory. So the smartest kid in the school, Miguel, and my best friend ended up in juvenile hall, right? And that's how precarious, right, our lives are and continue to be, right? Even as PhDs, as professors, right? You look cross-eyed, you have a broken tail light, who knows what, and suddenly life changes dramatically for some of us. Berkeley and Stanford, these were the questions I asked. I became absolutely obsessed with story. Why do we create story? Why did I just share my story with all of you, right? Why do you share your stories? Why do we create them? How are they built? And what can we do? What did they do in the world? What do stories do in the world? And you don't have to be a professional, right, story scholar going into literature. This is everywhere in all of our fields and in all of our daily activities, right? So what is it about this thing that we have evolved as a people, as humans, that is so significant about story and story thinking? These were my driving questions as an undergrad, and then as a graduate student, I started to piece together not only insights from the humanities, from the literary arts, the film arts, and the kind of burgeoning comic studies arts, but also drawing from areas like cognitive science. Because guess what? Cognitive science and neuroscience started asking similar questions. What is it about this thing that we do, story in our everyday lives, that captivates? And how do some stories captivate and others not, right? So I started putting them together, and this is where I began to ask questions about, well, what problems could we solve? And what innovations could we achieve if we were better at thinking in Latinx stories, or diverse stories generally, right? Opening our brains to all the wondrous stories that exist in the planet and not living our lives with this kind of shut down, narrow, right purview that the mainstream provides for us mostly. So what could we do? What if we learn to go beyond story as only communicating information? Very important. But what about the shaping of the story? It's not just about communicating the information, it's about how we give shape to that information, right? And this is one of the wonderful things about the class yesterday, our students in general, is taking them beyond just things like plot and character, which are really important, especially when plots and characters have been historically gatekept. But also, what about how we do the shaping of it? Comic books, film, TV, multimedia arts, performing arts, theater, right? Music. So yeah, these are my driving questions, and as you heard already, I ended up writing a bunch of books trying to drive at and really understand better, specifically in the spaces of Latino, Latinx narrative, right? Narrative story. And there was a moment when I decided, hey, I know a lot about this stuff, right, Brian? We know a lot about this stuff, so why not make story? Why not use that counterfactual capacity, right? The what-if capacity of my brain to actually make children's stories, the stories that I didn't find in the library when I was raising my daughter. The sensitive stories about papas and their kids, right? That I didn't find in the library. Con papa. The bilingual stories that I hungered for, that I wanted. Well, we're not sitting around, right, twiddling our thumbs. We're actually out there doing this stuff. We're making this stuff. We're transforming. We're actively in the world, expanding, situating, and enriching. So yes, the expansion, the understanding of the active creation and active reception of Latinx pop cultural matters, a straight focus of mine, very important focus of mine. The situating of this in time and place, because unfortunately we have not been given that opportunity right, to situate our stories in time and place, and of course, enrichment, right, how this in the world does actively make a difference. It opens doors, it allows people to see themselves, and it allows others to see us in the full complexity of our experience and our subjectivities. Latine, okay, so we all know that we go to the movies the most. In fact, we pretty much saved pop culture during the pandemic. Our demographic, really, seriously. We save movies because when we go see a movie like Coco, we go back again and we take our families and our extended families and everybody else, okay? So we go to the movies the most, we play and buy video games the most, we engage with pop culture the most. And yet, right, because of the gatekeeping, and in spite of the fact that we're over 19% of the US population, that is, we are the majority historically underrepresented in this country, there's this gatekeeping. And I think many of us can speak to very personalized experiences with gatekeeping, right? So the push out and lockout system, K through 12, that we see and that many of us have experienced, right? And in many ways, it's still a miracle that someone like myself and all our students and faculty here are here because of that system. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is. It is. It also means that fewer of us get the opportunity to get in front of and behind cameras, right? Get in front of and behind story making that makes it out into the bigger mainstream. The gatekeeping starts already the day we're born into the world, and it continues, and we continue that fight, and that's exactly what this is all about, to not only recognize the struggle, but to celebrate everybody who's here right now in the trenches making this happen, right? Because it's not just gonna happen on its own. Latinos blocked from access to the tools to reach our full potentiality, and that is a fact. And it begins day one. So if you are here, it's because someone did a lot of work to help open that door. And I will tell you, that was my mom. There is no doubt. Every morning I wake up, every night I go to sleep, I thank my mom, right? I did not get in that car because my mom, no, you stay home and you do your homework. Mainstream Latinas, unfortunately, because of the gatekeeping, because we don't have a seat at the table as we should, this is a perfect example in pop culture, right? What do we have? We have hypersexualized, hot-headed, criminal, buffoon. These are very typical ways that Latinas are represented in mainstream story. Really narrow-minded and destructive. Repetitive over and over again, right? Shaping the feeling structures, the thinking and behaving structures of a society. So then we have so much to do to push against, right? To remind you, we have, yes, this media industrial optic with Latinas that are hypersexualized, criminal, and bumbling buffoon. I've noticed that nobody mentioned Sofia Vergara, right? Gloria in Modern Family. Well, let's take a look at how, there's just this little clip.
First man correcting me, and now you. If I have a problem, I want to know, Jay. What else do I say wrong? What else? And what else?
Just little mispronunciations. Like, for example, last night you said, we live in a dog-eat-dog world.
So?
Well, it's dog-eat-dog world. Well, it's not blessings in disguise. It's blessings in disguise. Carpal tunnel syndrome is not carpool tunnel syndrome.
How?
What do you do with this? Right? Okay, yes, it is true. We have family members that speak with heavy accents, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens when the writers make that the point of the joke? What happens when you have writers in the room who are creating these scripts that invite the TV viewers to laugh at and not laugh with, right? And over and over and over again, right? Here's another one.
Can I ask you something? How much do we really know about Gloria?
The exotic stranger who just popped into our lives out of nowhere? I've had my suspicions about her for years.
Everybody has a bad cousin that teaches you a few things, like how to smoke, how to pickpocket, how to hotwire a car, how to put tags in your shoe when you want to throw off a lie detector test.
Which cousin was this?
I am the cousin.
Gloria, what can I say? Yeah. What about anybody have the unfortunate experience of seeing this movie? It is a remake of Chips. Some of you remember Chips, right? And we celebrated Eric Estrada, of course, because there were so few Latinos on TV. But anybody see this? Anyone? Anybody see this movie? Yeah, Jeff, okay. Well, do you remember that the way they write Punch is as a compulsive masturbator? That's his character. So it's not just Latinos, Latinas, it's Latinos, right? Here's an example.
Look, I'm sorry you crashed, man. I tried to warn you.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Look, man, just real quick, I wasn't trying to embarrass you. We all have sex issues. I haven't slept with my wife in a year. But when people have over-sexualized behavior like yours, sometimes that's evidence of past childhood trauma, and I just wanted you to feel safe talking to me.
There's been no trauma, okay? And my goal in life isn't to feel safe talking to you. What I do and how many times I do it in the bathroom, that's personal, okay? That's my business. That's not our business.
I'll stay out of it.
I don't know, Jeff, you're the only one who saw this movie, but this is definitely not what I'm telling you to run to watch. But the fact of the matter is, this is the kind of narrative, right? The framing of the way we are being represented in the world. Other ways, of course, as the Latinx threat, right? Coming across the border, the threat, the hordes, right? Us as uncivilized, and us as in need of a white savior, right? So we can, I can't even count on one hand or two hands or three how many shows on TV frame us as narcos, right? Can't count on one hand how many shows show us in need of being civilized and where there is a white savior. If you had the unfortunate experience of seeing this show, Coyote, it ran for a couple of minutes and then was canceled. Let's see, is this gonna go? Let's see, sorry. Oops, all right, we're not, you know what? Coyote doesn't deserve our attention. It's everywhere. Okay, Batman v Superman. You could count on like less than one hand how many Latinos actually appear in the background of the Zack Snyder reconstructions of Superman. Literally, like a gas station attendant, a soldier, and then somehow Superman gets wind that he needs to fly down to Juarez and save a little girl from a burning building. What kind of message is that? We can't save a little girl from a burning building, but even worse. Sorry, a little bit of tech stuff. Can you see that? Yeah.
As a population on this planet have been looking for a savior. 90% of people believe in a higher power, and every religion believes in some sort of messianic figure.
What do you, Amy, you're shaking your hand. What do you do? I mean, seriously, first of all, we need Superman to save a little girl from, right, a burning building. Second, it just happens to be on Day of the Dead, right? And third, the kind of adoration. I mean, maybe we can at least thank Zack Snyder for making what happens in mainstream media so completely apparent, right? If that's what we're gonna do, but we'll never do that, okay? But seriously, we become habituated to this kind of stuff because it is thrown at us constantly, right? I am a cold Latina. There was a slide up there. It says, that was a billboard that I saw as I was driving. So, right, a billboard. So you don't even have the Latina anymore. It's a cold Latina and you got tecate, right? Advertised. Video games, it's the same, right? So Nathan Drake, white adventurer in Latin America, has to literally fight his way out of prisons, out of jungles, out of all of these kinds of things, and ultimately, just like Lara Croft, is the white savior, right? Lara Croft saves the indigenous community from a Mayan apocalypse. If it's not that, then we have something like in Far Cry 6, where the setting is a fictionalized Caribbean Hispanophone island ruled by a dictator, and where the character, the player, Danny Rojas, by the way, very typically never a Latino voicing the characters, right? What we might call brown voice happening constantly in video game, in the industry, right? And here's just a quick little clip. Maybe, and maybe not. We're not gonna give Far Cry 6 the clip because we don't think it deserves it. So thank you, tech people. Sicario, okay, this was interesting. The last administration, the last Trump administration, a journalist heard these phrases and was like, hold on, this sounds really familiar to me. And went back and rewatched Sicario, the film. And guess what? Everything that the president then said came directly from a scene in Sicario. Yeah. So this is just to drive home the point that it matters. It also matters that we are eyes wide open, critical to this stuff, and as I was just talking and learning from the wonderful BGSU students here, that you are making your own to make the difference, to push against, right? And not even sometimes to push against, simply to get your stuff out there because it hasn't had that chance, right? This is what I call the brown optic, and I like to talk very briefly about this moment with Muerto Mouse when Disney tried to trademark Day of the Dead. Do you remember that? Yeah, so they filed to trademark Day of the Dead in 2013, and Lalo Alcaraz, a friend of mine, big, huge billboards and murals all over LA, no way in hell, and he gave us Muerto Mouse, right? And guess what? That actually, of course, galvanized, we pulled together to push against this, and eventually, Disney, and even though Lalo got a little bit of pushback for this, Disney they were really smart, they invited Lalo to be consultant on Coco. Now the opening of Coco, if you remember, the abuelita does the chancla, right? Like the superhero moment, and like it goes flying and hits Miguelito, right? Well, the way Disney, this is just one example of many, the way Disney had that scene written, it was a spoon. Lalo's like, hell no. This is not how this works, right? So they were smart. They brought in consultants like Lalo, and guess what? Don't we love Coco? Yeah. We love Coco. It's because they finally got people in the room who know what's going on and not just watching reruns of Speedy Gonzales. Right? Latinx behind and in front of the camera. And Haley, this is your work, right? I mean, in the performing arts, getting behind, making it happen, casting, really important work. Gloria Calderon, right? We love Gloria's work one day at a time, and I know they tried to cancel it many times, but we pushed back and we got it going again. We had in the writer's room, we had Latinos in the writer's room. Thank goodness, for the first time, we had people in front of the camera that were Latino. Rita, right? Justina, all of these Latino figures playing Latino characters in a really interesting way. All right, the tech here is definitely not working. So I don't know if there's a technician back there that wants to help out, but this is kind of not good. No techs? All right, we'll just keep moving. So this is all to say that this we have been working to clear the narrative space for the distillation, what I call the distillation, the stripping down and the reconstruction of affirming narratives. Narratives that affirm our complexity, our Afro-Latinx, our indigenous, our LGBTQ subjectivities and experiences. The brown optics in cinema, I'll just give a little run through here. I loved it when Ariana DeBose won Best Supporting Actress and got up on stage and said, as an openly queer Afro-Latina who found strength in life and art, and then says, as she opens her arms to everyone who has been forced to, quote, live in those gray spaces, welcoming all of us in, right, from those gray spaces. What a moment. What a moment. Of course, we were hopeful that this was gonna be that watershed, right? But we become hungry again and thirsty again for more of these moments because they're so few. Book of Life, Jorge Gutierrez, wow. Talk about shaping devices. The Book of Life, not only telling us a story, but telling us the story in the most extraordinary way. And guess what? Book of Life's primary ideal audience? Us. And the misfits, the ones that are sent to the detentions, right? The nerds. That's the primary audience. Remember Book of Life? Everybody has, if you haven't seen Book of Life, you have to go see it. It's the detention kids in their bus that come to the museum, and guess what? This beautiful magical portal opens, not the main entrance, the side entrance. And Santa Muerta comes out and tells them, you know, they learn this beautiful story. And it's for them. Secondarily, for others, but primarily for them. And I'm gonna say that this probably isn't gonna work.
Center of the universe. And long ago, in the center of Mexico was the quaint little town of San Angel.
Churros! Churros! Frosted churros!
Now naturally, since San Angel was the center of the universe, directly below it lay the land of the remembered, a festive and magical place for those who live on in the memories of their loved ones. And below that lies the land of the forgotten, the sad and lonely destination for those poor souls who are no longer remembered.
Gorgeous, right? Oh my goodness, I love this. I love Book of Life. I love everything that Jorge does. Maya and the Three, if you haven't seen it on Netflix, completely mind-blowing. His animation, it's not just the stories that we are hungry to hear, but it's also the way he tells them, the way he gives shape to them that are extraordinary, innovative, right? There's all sorts of really remarkable stuff going on in the superhero world. Miles, Jeff brought up, but I just want to remind that there are, at the same time that we have colorblind creating, which is what we've been pushing against, whites in brown face or in brown voice, with zero cultural historical backstory and specificity, we do have coming out constantly narratives that are color conscious creating. Latina characters with ethnic and racial, cultural, and experiential specificity and complexity, right? Color conscious creating is happening, and let's hope this one works.
My mother and her village were driven from their farms by Spanish conquistadors who brought smallpox, a hateful language and dogma from another world. Facing starvation, war, and disease, my people turned to Jack. Nothing could prepare me for what I found there.
¿Quién es este niño? ¿Ah?
Hijo de Satanás. Spanish man of faith cursed me as he died by my hand. He called me Un niño sin amor. El niño sin amor? The child without love. And I took my name from there. Namor. Because I have no love for the surface world.
Wow. Seriously? That's like chills every time. Chills every time. And guess what? Ryan Coogler and the team, the writers on this, take Namor, right, in a white Atlantean, hybrid, but still white Atlantean, and reconstruct in and through, right, a story of origin that shares with the world the destruction, the smallpox, the murder, the genocide of Mesoamerican indigenous populations in the MCU. It can happen, it has happened, and it is wondrous when it does. Blue Beetle. Come on, we want Nana. Don't we want Nana? Okay, this is really, Okay, for those of you who've seen Blue Beetle, tell me, okay, I see a hand over there. Tell us about what happens when Nana pulls out the machine gun and takes charge. Do you remember that? Yeah, were you just like, what? This is the grandma that I want.
Right, I was saying, abuelita.
Abuelita. And guess what? Linked historically yet again to the soldaderas, right, who fought in the Mexican Revolution. How cool is that? This is mainstream, can you see that? This is mainstream comic book storytelling where you have people in the writing room who are making these exciting, right? They're using their story-thinking brains to bring our stories into light and giving these extraordinary shape. Our abuelita who comes out with this insane moment of like empowerment, right?
So the video is happening, it's the PowerPoint, so that's not our end. So I think the best way we can do it is you can exit the slideshow and then like manually click it, but I won't be able to have it like be full screen. Is that
Well, let's just show it then. Yeah. You want to start it over? Okay, here we go. So we do have Nana, even though it's not in the full glory that I wanted.
¡Abajo los imperialistas! Ay. Ahora sí nos podemos ir, mijo.
No, it's not synced.
Vente, vámonos.
That's okay. Let's move forward. Thanks. There we go. Thank you.
¡Abajo los imperialistas! Ahora sí nos podemos ir, mijo. Vente, vámonos.
It wasn't synced, but you get the idea. Go watch Blue Beetle, okay? Comics World, this is with the word-drawn Latinx narratives. I just want to give us a kind of quick overview here. Some of the concepts that I think are really useful, because when we give shape differently to our stories, I think it's incumbent upon us to also understand like the concepts, the tools, the actual like making. So comics is made differently to TV, just as TV is made differently to film, just as performance art is made differently, right? So out of respect to the forms, and also in a way to enrich and nuance what those forms are doing and what we're doing with those forms, I think we need to be able to kind of go in and understand the shape. So for me, concepts like the dynamizing or the dynamizing of space, where setting, characters, and clothing, other objects within the panel create a dynamic energy, right, within the panel of the comic. It's really important. And the way comics spatialize time, right? It's the way the framing, the layout, all of this stuff, the sequences, the pages allow us to experience, right, the space of time, right? Spatializing of time, comics. Comics also invite us to take pause and to really like open that page and pay attention to what's going on, to the way we dynamize space and spatialize time in this particular narrative form. I've been particularly focused on Latinx youth in and through comics, both in the making of them and also in the theorizing of them. I think there's a lot of really exciting, interesting work going on, especially to bring to the fore identities and experiences, racial, sexual, gender, and class, that have been otherwise pushed to the margins, those gray spaces that DuBose talks about, to really push into the foreground the prejudice and the fear that our youth are living in today, and to make that something outside so that others can see that they are not alone and can come together. The stories like Gabi Rivera's, America Chavez happen in the mainstream when you have a Latina, a queer Latina, doing this work with the creating of a character like America Chavez, whose superpowers punching through borders, not just between worlds, but also divisive, right? Borders, frontiers, walls that have been set up between communities, between families, those of us within the families, and of course, white supremacy. I love this moment because America Chavez teams up, just like we saw with the abuelita, the anciana, right? There is this deep respect also for what has come before us, and the struggles. And here we have the grandmother, the abuelita, Elena, fighting alongside America to win the day. We tell stories because of the gatekeeping that has been happening historically to us. We tell stories about what is right in our proximate present, like the ice cages. This is my story, Dora. I just taught this with Amy's students, and it's from the perspective of a little one who is inexplicably, in the middle of the night, detained, pulled away from Mama and the little brother, and suddenly finds themselves as a little person who doesn't understand the language but understands the shame and the violence of words being thrown at them in a court, suddenly finds themselves in an ice cage where, in fact, the older girls, and because of the gender segregation, they can't be with the little brother, and where the other girls aren't allowed to touch or hug because of the rules within the ice cage. The only comfort that they find is in this hard plastic Dora doll. I want to show this one a little bit. Next, Benedict, Choctaw 16-year-old Two-Spirit that was bullied to the point of basically taking their life a little over a year ago. This is happening constantly in our world because of the surveillance, the fear that feeds the kind of violence that youth experience. This particular student, Omar, was actually in my laser program that I created at The Ohio State University. Unfortunately, Omar, who came out to me as gay, was perceived as a threat and was brutally murdered in Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so this is real stuff. This is as our reality exists, right? And we need to get those stories out. This one I framed, I reshaped as El Celso, and it's a journey. It's taken, there are a lot of elements of Omar in this, the writing of La Bestia, the very dangerous journey from Central America to the United States. But then, of course, the moment when Omar felt like they were a regular high school kid in the United States, right? Having their first love, their first crush, and it all ending in this very brutal, very violent end for youth like Omar. Latinx story thinking, just to summarize, is formulating relations of causality of the world as it is, but it's also formulating counterfactuals, using our hypothetical to imagine a world that might be, and formulating plans with probabilistic outcomes what our situation will be in the world of the future. What it is, what it might be, and what we can do together, right, to create a future that we live together and that new generations will experience in hopefully ways that are better, a better tomorrow. Steampunk Era Chronicles is my project that's dropping this summer. It's also a video game and a cartoon. I'll just share a little bit. The idea was to use my hypothetical what-if capacity to go back in time to the mid-19th century Mexico and to take and create a whole cast of Latina superheroes who are born to actual historical figures, but who then in their adventure go into these historical moments in the South, in Mexico, in Louisiana, right? They make known historical events that we know very little about. Like Saint-Malo in Louisiana. Anybody know that in the 19th century this was a big refuge for fugitive slaves, for those jumping slavers, Filipina Asians that had been enslaved and brought through the Panama Canal, and of course fugitive black slaves, Choctaw, indigenous, and others. There was this refuge just outside of New Orleans, and it became a refuge because nobody could go find them through the swamplands. So yeah, each of their adventures draws on something that's historical. At the same time, it imagines a what-if situation. Here's some examples of the characters. It was really important for me to get a very diverse, in terms of in front of the screen, representation with the characters. So Afro-Latina, Latina Filipina, white Latina, etc. And yeah, this is like so exciting for me, right? I can't wait for this thing to drop. They're all really smart and super trained in the different warrior arts. Other projects that were already mentioned, Con Papa, The Adventures of Chupacabra Charlie. Chupacabra Charlie's adventures take place in the US-Mexico borderlands. Charlie is from Mexico. He lives in one of those, what we call an azotea, the little room on the top of the buildings in Mexico. And he longs for a friend and an adventure, so he befriends a human, Lupe, and they go on this adventure, find their way across the wall, and they free children from cages. But they have to get home in time, right, to be in bed before the parents see that they've been out. So what did they do? Through a whole series of encounters, they end up with a big jar of prickly pear pickles that they give to El Señor Big Bigote, who uses these to power his newly combustion-invented machine Impala that will fly them across the wall using pickled pears as its fuel. Here you go, the pickled pear Impala-fueled journey at the end. Here's a little... hopefully, this was the film that was screened in Cannes. Here's a little, maybe not. I guess not. Con Papa, as you know, I mentioned already, and this was bilingual. I wanted, instead of, when I say the baby was delivered to this doorstep, what do you imagine, Amanda? a stork and a white baby. Yeah, a little pink, cute, but pink white baby, right? I wanted the creation god, Quetzalcoatl, to deliver the brown baby at the doorstep to the papa. And that's where the adventure starts. Labyrinth's Born is another one where I use my what-if capacity to imagine a future, but a future that is actually put into the hands of the new generation and your openness to the sciences, the arts, the humanities, theater, everything, and as a way to figure out how to reboot the planet. Because anyone over 25 dies of a bone marrow disease. Sorry, we're gone. We had our chance. Here's just some pages from that. And Max Rodriguez, my YA novel from last year, I'm adapting into a graphic novel. It opens, it's time for those slick goody two-shoes Superman types to move over. It's our turn, the misfits. I'm Max Rodriguez. I'm straight out of the defect pile. This is my story. We're not just theorizing and making in books, in film, in animation, all the arts. We're creating spaces like this everywhere across the country, right? We are creating spaces to grow and develop Latinx story thinking, to invite others to co-create with us in our stories and our experiences, and to make knowledge. At UT Austin, I've been able to create the Latinx Pop Lab, where we regularly do workshops with K through 12 in the community. The BIPOC Pop, right, Comics Arts Expo that I just did a couple weeks ago, and the Latinx Pop magazine. I have these up here with our social media, because if you have any inclination and want to do anything for these, you just reach out to me. BIPOC Pop just happened. This is one of my favorite events every March. And yeah, it's extraordinary. But it takes the kind of work that all of the folks that came together to make this happen for us today, it takes that kind of work, right? And we will continue to do that work.
Creative scholars and industry leaders working in the comics, gaming, animation, and multimedia arts for 3 days to focus on strengthening community, the sharing of cutting-edge, creative critical knowledge making, and the graphic storytelling arts. The event included panels, workshops, and a comics expo.
So, as I close, I just want to leave us with this reminder, not even a reminder, just this statement. We all deserve the right to shape our stories today and tomorrow, to grow and create and realize our dreams as educators, makers, storytellers, and more. Our voices belong in every story form: literature, comics, TV, video games, multimedia arts, and in stories and forms yet to be imagined. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Luis, do we have a minute or?
Does anybody have one question? Because we need to move on to the other activity. But again, he'll be outside answering more questions out here in the lobby area.
Hi, hola. Again, I'm Haley Anissa from the Theater and Film Department. Thank you so much for the keynote that you just gave. I had chills. My heart was racing. At one point, I wanted to flip the table that I was sitting at. So thank you so much for the motivation that you have given us all here. The question that I have for you is a personal question that I also struggle with in theater making. And so I just wanted to see if maybe this is something that you have also pondered about. The question I wrote is, how do you choose to depict violence and discrimination in your work while also being aware of the way that mainstream media attempts to ghettoize our gente's lived experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we need to be confident and strong enough to air our dirty laundry, but we need to be the ones that are doing that, okay? And because we're the ones that will be shaping that story and those messages, there will be complexity, right? And it won't just be the one-dimensional, stereotypical stuff that we are constantly spoon-fed through the white industrial media complex. So it's that simple. It's also really important, and one of my slides talked about like the joy and the affirmation. I want the stories of Through Fences to be in the world. It's very important. We need to know what's happening to our children and our youth along the border. We need to see, we need to feel the visceral violence that targets our youth. At the same time, we need to clear space for those stories that celebrate our joy, that celebrate all of the wondrous ways that our community come together. We need both. And I think that's it. So thank you so much.
Let's give him a hand one more time. I have a couple things that are on the slide, but I do have it memorized, right? So first thing, real quick, if you have not seen the CIC archive over here, Latino Issues archive over there, check it out before you leave. Another thing, we do have a panel coming up at 1:30, and then at 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. So please take a program. It's on the table. Also, there's a QR code. We want you to evaluate us in the context of how great we're doing, right? Put down great food, great speaker, because again, we use that feedback to get more sponsors next year. Okay, and so let's give them another hand. There we go. And like I said, we'll be out there in the lobby area for more questions. Come take pictures, and we'll see you move on to 1:30, or we'll see you later on floating around the union, right? Looking for something to do, right? Okay, bye.